When did you begin using comedy against Zionism?
In fact, I've done sketches about all forms of extremism, but freedom of speech stops in France when it comes to criticizing Israel. We don't have the right to talk about it. I have to add that we have someone as head of the government who is openly Zionist himself. In my opinion, one of the most Zionist people I've ever seen in France.
And why are you against Zionism? What motivates you to be against it?
Well, it began simply with the issue of unequal competition, a republic which does not treat its citizens equally. What I'm trying to say is, in France, for example, we commemorate only one of the events that have caused suffering for people, the Holocaust. Other events where mankind has suffered injustice are completely overlooked. For example, slavery in French colonies, the Algerian War, and many other events are never mentioned. The Zionist lobby imposes an unequal competition, a hierarchy in the sufferings of different communities, which is completely obscene. But it is no surprise, coming from a type of individual with an immoral or unfair character who is, from a philosophical point of view, to some extent, mediocre. But today, they have taken France as hostage, and we are in the hands of ignorant people who know how to structure themselves into a mafia-like organization and have now taken over a country that deserves much better leaders than those who are in charge. Unfortunately, today authorities are putting more pressure, particularly on me directly, and other comedians are generally afraid, and freedom of expression is decreasing in France. You in Iran, however, especially regarding the issue of Zionism, there is a lot of freedom of expression, and for Iranians who are listening to this, the subject of Zionism is something that's not considered a big deal, because everyone can talk about it and everyone knows about it. But in France, it is taboo to talk about it, since France is being led by Zionists who frankly try to put things in order that serves their interests. They have a lot of power and they are violent, but not at all brave, and they stab you in the back and neutralize you economically. I myself was attacked in the street by 4 Israelis, which I have to add that they were arrested. I went to prison, but the media didn't talk about it. My children were also attacked, my 2 little sons. But again, the media did not talk about it. They only know to say one thing, the media which is in accordance with Zionism, and that's what they keep saying, anti-Semite, anti-Semite. But this is not true. The truth is that I am not an anti-Semite, but this has never existed, and as far as I'm concerned, I have obviously never had any issues with Judaism.
You said that this was about comedy and making people laugh, but how are they supposed to laugh at someone else's suffering?
I don't want to, and I would obviously never give myself the right to laugh at someone else's suffering. I can laugh at the way this suffering is used. For example, in France, the Holocaust, which has now become like a dominant religion, it has replaced even Jesus Christ. We are obligated to accept this dogma and pray for it almost every night and teach it to other children. It's the way the Zionists are using this suffering of the Jews, which has obviously suffered, but of course not more than many others in history. And it is a suffering that should not be denied, just like the others. And they have commercialized this suffering. Now this is something that we can laugh at, and have just finished writing a song. And I'd like to point out that it is a short song for children, and it's called Shoananas, or Holocaust Pineapples, in which I try to explain that we should not let ourselves go with the flow of this way of preferring the suffering of a certain group over others who have also suffered. Humanity as a whole has suffered, and nobody is better than the others. For those who believe in God, He's watching over us, and for others who don't, there is nature and evolution, or whatever they believe in it. What I'm trying to say is that Zionism is dividing humanity, is trying to rule by making us fight one another. They have organized all the wars and organized all the disorders on this planet. They were involved in the slave trade. We should know that 90% of the ships that relocated the Africans to the West Indies belonged to Jews, and the majority of slave traders were Jews. Obviously, Jews today are not responsible for what happened, but this is a reality, and this, for example, is something we are not allowed to talk about. The president has made declarations against black people that are completely intolerable. Well, he's a man who loves money and the luxury that it brings, but from there, pushing for deforestation and the massacre of human beings, and deforestation itself is a kind of genocide in light of the way it destroys the environment where people live. And as he and his friend Vincent Bolloré, who represents the greatest French firms and robs Africa, and with Sarkozy, this just continues. We are on the path where Africa is being dominated both militarily and economically, and this is completely intolerable. Unlike Iran, France does not have natural resources. Therefore, just like the US and Israel, it has to get the raw material it needs from other countries in the world to organize wars, organize September 11th, to be able to argue that we should launch a war on terror and go to war in Afghanistan and base military troops in Iraq, and etc. And the list goes on. The US is a country that is falling apart itself, and I know about it a little, and I visit Canada very often. We've seen this happen to unjust systems like the stock market, where a small number of people get to ruin a country, eliminate jobs of many people. This system is a Zionist system. I don't want to get into Iran's internal affairs. I don't know Iran's story. What I know is the voice of your president when we hear it outside the borders. And I can tell you that you can be proud of this voice because it inspires people and gives them courage. It allows people to say, finally, we are capable of resisting what appeared to be irresistible. We should not forget that they are very rich, and with all the glamour surrounding them, they can cause trouble for some people.
You've met with President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Would you like to tell us what happened during the meeting and what you talked about?
It was essentially about people who endure injustices, and the best ways for them is to resist and fight. And he agreed that culture is the most effective way to fight in a pacifist manner against injustice and consequently Zionism, and humor in particular. I would like to talk about this project called Shoananas, and I think that what really surprised me was the openness of the heart of the president and the viewpoint that using culture we can change the world, change the rapport between humans, and see egotism and lies and racism disappear. Things that have been integrated by the Zionists project, and I think that Iran as an example is creating the movement. And I can imagine that it's a heavy burden for Iranians to carry, and sacrifices and the desire of the youth to see something change, which I understand and is completely legitimate. I am not going to comment on that, but you should know that these efforts have turned Iran into a country which has become the last battleground for resistance, and which is helping this develop all around the world, like in Venezuela, for example, and in Europe, political movements like the anti-Zionist party, which is developing all around Europe and was established in France by Yahya Gouasmi and me, and today is developing in Belgium and Switzerland and everywhere. And people are becoming more and more aware, and they have begun realizing that they have been brainwashed, and these are illusions. The combatants should wake up, obviously combatants of peace, those who are attached to justice. We have turned into sheep, kittens, who are being fed with illusions and submissiveness. Now, today the kitten becomes a lion that is turning against the Zionists. It's clear that we are just at the beginning of the road, but based on the Iranian model, a revolution is developing in France, and we are adhering to the ideology.
Did you get good results in the polls for the European Union? Are you satisfied?
When I say 40,000 people, and we started off with only 3 people, and we reached 40,000, and that on the chessboard of Parisian politics means 1.3% of the votes. Of course, I should mention that 60% abstained, but as a first step, we have done much better than many other parties, and I wish to say that considering the facilities that we had, this is an exceptional result. If you multiply the facilities by 10, we can become an opposition in the coming years, I think. I have a provocation to make people laugh and to continue my job as an artist. But there are certain people that have taken the movement into their own hands and who are increasing. There are those who adhere to it. And the reason why I'm here is because there are people here who follow us and watch what we are doing and have let us meet other people. Iran has become a place where anti-Zionists can meet, communicate, and develop.
And while this is a difficult road, but how do you see the future of your party?
I think that we will get good results as of the next elections, and God willing, someday we will even win the presidential elections and radically change the politics and the direction which France is now headed toward, which is suicidal, because France can no longer continue like this. It is being managed in a colonialist way, as if everything is going to continue the same way, and that we will be able to continue to rob other countries. No. Eventually, we will need to establish justice, and this justice will take over no matter what happens.
Elle s'imposera, quoi qu'il arrive.
Shuaninus premieres this summer, which is the means which will allow kids dance and to learn at the same time. Well, I like pineapples, so I think this clip will allow us to have fun. Normally, we will be touring and I'm going to bring the show here in Tehran.
Thank you very much. And the final question that I have for you is regarding the movie that you're planning to make here in Iran. Would you like to tell us more about that?
In France, when I wanted to make the